Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transportation Exchange podcast presented by Rush Truck Sales of Canada. I'm your host, Jason Cuddy, and on today's episode, we're excited to welcome Preeti and Matt from Thermo King Americas. Preeti and Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
So we wanted to have you on to get us up to speed and a lot of our listeners with regards to electrification as it pertains to refrigerated units on trucks and trailers. And we've talked to a couple of the OEMs on the power side as far as trucks go, but we haven't had a chance to talk to the suppliers that help keep the refrigerated product nice and cool as far as electrification. So maybe we'd start with kind of an overview of what Thermo King is doing with regards to electrification on units for trucks and trailers.
Yep, I can take that. So, we started this journey on electrification over 5 years ago now, and have moved through multiple different technology development phases and understanding what the customer requirements and regulatory environment looks like, and have now moved into product development. So our focus really here is on truck to start with, and Preeti can definitely cover that way better than I can. And then we started customer demonstration of our trailer electrification capabilities about 1.5 years ago, and we've gone through 4 or 5 customers now, really trying to establish what we can do for trailer electrification, running equipment on battery power, understanding what charging and infrastructure looks like, and we can get into those details more here as we go along. But our path really has been following the needs for electrification all along, looking at component development, trying to determine what critical characteristics are really required for this electrification journey, and then really trying to understand how changing to fully electric operation affects our customers and trying to understand their operational needs much better.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah. So I guess you mentioned that the truck piece is sort of the first to market. Maybe walk us through what that looks like, for the average user. What's going to be different?
Pretty much everything when we talk about electrification. So we are starting with a ground up design on this product where we take a direct connection to the chassis batteries, and we have a huge focus on efficiency and reliability to help customers meet their ESG targets as well as their sustainability vision to help us as well as them. So efficiency and reliability are the top focus to develop this ground up design. And we add a lot of value when it comes to data. This unit that we call E1000 comes standard with telematics, as well as the ability to change to multiple speeds, which directly affects the capacity. So it's no longer belt and pulley driven 2-speed controls. It's all controlled by power electronics, which gives more flexibility to the customers.
Gotcha. So on this E1000, I know traditionally on the internal combustion line, there's different, segments of product for size and temperature hit. Is this the same thing, or is this kind of, because of technology, kind of one device can fit multiple applications?
So the latter in the broad sense, because it's no longer driven by the belts or physical components, it's more electronic in nature. It's all, it has the smarts built in it to control the capacity or the output that the box temperature need to be maintained at. And of course, we have sized it to our largest diesel offering that we have today to make sure it can be scaled down to help customers with lower energy needs as well. So the variable aspect of it, variable speed aspect of it is definitely very attractive.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense, because that way, from an 18-footer or 14-footer all the way up to almost a 30-footer, you have the product can meet all the requirements, which is great because everyone's going to be playing with this, but that's going to be the sweet spot, obviously, for the straight truck application. So being able to meet the needs of the customers is key.
Absolutely.
Excellent. And then, so I know you mentioned the trailer side is kind of still to come. It's just being demoed. But is there any kind of high level conversation we can have as far as what maybe we can expect down the line with the trailer side?
Sure. So we've really been able to, like I said, with these early customer demonstrations, bring in a bunch of data, right? So, we're streaming somewhere around 1 to 2 gigabytes a day off of these systems while they're running, understanding the performance of all the components, not just the batteries, looking both thermally, electrically, how the systems interact with our refrigeration unit, and then really understanding the customer operations is key, right? So we know that with a really large battery, we can complete a full day's trip. But as we look at combining batteries with other technologies for what we call range extension, we're looking at things like adding solar, electric axle, other technology in the future as it comes into being. A lot of these new technologies are very, very early in their viability and development, right? A lot of them have yet to be proven in the field. So, for right now, we're focused on how much energy does the customer need for their operation, making sure that these systems have the same level of reliability and performance and serviceability through our dealer networks that we perform today. And then helping customers figure out things like, maybe how to tweak their operation to get more efficiency, right? We've looked at customer optimization in the past for diesel. Obviously, diesel is expensive, so we try to help our customers optimize their system performance for diesel. But now, when you're bringing a very finite amount of energy with you, and you can't just pour kilowatts back in the tank very quickly, this gets a little bit more critical. We like to tell customers that it's like taking your 50-gallon tank and shrinking it to 7 to 10 gallons, and then budgeting your daily operations with that amount of fuel. So helping to work them through that, and then really focused on infrastructure as well. Like how are we going to plug this in? How are we going to charge it? Where are you going to charge it in your yard? And then do we need to maintain the operation, using shore power today or the equivalent of charging energy? Because, unlike the tractors or the power units, the tractors come in from the routes, they get charged, they get put away, waiting to go out the next day. Refrigeration units are running all the time. They might have a little bit of time off, between shifts, but as soon as they get back, they get cleaned, they get turned around, they get pre-cooled and put back on the line, right? So those units are running, pretty consistently during a typical customer operational procedures.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That we've talked with some of our customers as trying to onboard or just work through even the demo process of the electric vehicle side. And the one thing that always comes up in conversation is, for our side, the product is straightforward. It's the infrastructure. It's getting in front of it. And in all honesty, and this is why we wanted to have you guys on and talk about it, because as people build out for electrification on the truck side, obviously, if they run a refrigerated fleet, whether it be trailers or straight trucks, they're going to have to meet those requirements. And knowing and thinking about the infrastructure required to meet those demands, as you mentioned, it's not just as simple as it is with the truck. You got a few more things to consider. So the infrastructure part is a key conversation to have, way ahead of time, which is important that we're bringing up now.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think customers that have worked with our shore power, smart power connections in the past will actually have pretty, I don't want to say easy, but a good view of what that transition looks like. But those customers that haven't had a practice of plugging things in the past, they can go the shore power route to start with. It really can be a key to, eliminating your emissions fairly quickly without a bunch of new technology investment. And then let's look to say, okay, we're going to put plugs in today. How can we transfer those from shore power operations to maybe a charging, infrastructure system without having to, maybe rebury and dig up the parking lot again, right? So.
Yeah, no, fair. And then on the truck side itself, for the truck units, is there separate charging requirements outside of charging a truck, and it feeds off the truck's main system that people need to consider?
So the way we have optimized our design is as the battery electric truck is going to be there at the charging location to charge the batteries anyway. So we have moved away from having to add a separate shore power connection to our unit, because we want to give the customer the seamless experience of having one set of cables, one set of charging ports to maintain and deal with. And once the truck is charged, our unit will run on its own and does not have a separate plug point, because we don't want somebody to leave without charging the battery electric truck, but having our unit fully charged and functional. Because anyway, we are taking the high voltage DC connection directly from the chassis batteries. So we want to make sure the truck is charged and geared to go.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And it's easier, obviously, for the operators, right? It's one plug to think about, not two, which is nice. And it's, it's all tied into systems. So as long as the truck is ready to go, the refrigerated unit is ready to go as well. So that definitely helps, especially as we talk about the onboarding. The less things you need to add to the list, the better, for sure.
Exactly. And we are changing immensely the operation behavior and the driver mindset here with electrification. You can no longer leave the back door open and unload for an hour. We got to be thoughtful about it, introduce air curtains, and make sure they are used properly to conserve all the energy. So it's going to be a learning curve, but we as Thermo King are doing all we can to make sure we advocate for changes in behavior and how to help with the range.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because you have an infinite amount of power that you can't just come and top up on the side of the road like you're used to, or have an in-yard fueling. So you need to be kind of proactive as far as how you plan your trip and your routes. And obviously the telematics help too, right? Because it helps keep the office in touch with what's going on, so they can probably get in front of something if it looks like it's trending to an area where you're going to run out of power to get the vehicle home. Because someone's been parked for an hour with the doors wide open, and it's extremely hot in the summer, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So from a regulation point of view, we're fairly familiar with how it impacts the combustion engines and the electrification side of that. What is it, similar sort of regulations that impact the truck units and the trailer units that obviously the electrification piece is trying to work and resolve?
So I can take that one. It's a different impact for truck and trailer is the short answer. But so the truck's immediate regulation is the ATCM that goes into effect this year, where 15% of the fleet in California that's operational and domiciled need to have zero emissions on their reefer or the refrigeration units. And we are gearing towards that regulation to make sure we have product out there to help customers meet it.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's definitely different than what the truck side is facing. And then obviously part of what's happening to make that work is rebates and incentives. Obviously, we have some incentives here and rebates in Canada, with again tied more to the truck itself. Same sort of question is: are there different rebates for the refrigerated unit side, or is it all tied together as kind of one piece in one vehicle?
As far as I have seen, there is different rebates available for the chassis to comply, and grants and incentives governing the chassis side of it, or the battery electric truck side of it, and separate ones for the truck refrigeration side of it. And we have a relationship with GNA that gives us a quarterly report on what are the grants and incentives available that we share with our dealers and customers to make sure they are able to take advantage of it.
Gotcha. And I guess that's part of, one of the main things is working with someone, like Thermo King on this is, choosing a partner for this electrification journey, right? You talk about infrastructure and grants, but maybe walk us through what you guys do from helping to onboard from the demo side to implementation and kind of beyond, as far as supporting the customers through this process.
So we lean heavily on our dealer network for this, for electrification to become a success, and we have a very widespread dealer presence to help with the install and the service of these units in the initial phase. And it all starts with making sure our dealers are electrification ready, so to help the customers. And we have our, let's take an example, the core incentive, the clean off the road equipment incentive. E1000 is the only product, and E200 are smaller 12-volt offering for zero emissions. These are the two products approved under the core incentive. So all of the dealers in California are now able to process requests under that program, and probably it will open again this year in mid-June timeframe to take advantage to help with the higher initial cost and help offset it by a lot, actually.
Yeah, and for trailer, like I said, on the electrification side, we're very engaged on the demonstration programs. We have a high level of participation and very, very active between engineering, our commercial teams, and the customers in really walking them through what these programs mean, getting their feedback, and then providing them a significant amount of data for their review at the end of the period. For incentive and programs for trailer, really right now we're focused on working with utilities and other programs in make ready for infrastructure. So now's the time to look at shore power. Most of the infrastructure make ready programs from the utilities, at least in California, and I think there's incentives in Canada as well, to start adding those plugins for the trailers, and being able to move into that. Take that next step towards electrification, and then look at what that looks like for your charging infrastructure in the future, really is what to start looking at for now. And for the trailer units, at least in California, moving into the requirement for the Tier 4 emissions engines, really where there was some variability in the past. And some, we have Thermo King has our evergreen solutions in the S600 and the S610M. Now that's, we've been doing that for the last 10 years, and now moving into where that is going to be the requirement in California. So no longer, being able to have a lower tier engine with add-ons. So I think that's kind of the update from the trailer side. We're still waiting to see what regulations and different mandates are going to be for trailer operation, and it'll still be probably a couple of years before we see anything written in stone. They're definitely open to listening to customers and OEs at this point on what that might look like, and we think there's opportunities for combination in a transitional time when there's still going to be an engine involved, at least for backup operation, but definitely, trying to determine what that looks like for full electric, zero emissions, as we think that's where things are going to go. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I know we have, in Canada, there's obviously a lot of fleets that do run into California. So obviously from the carb side, on the power side, on the trucks, there's, we're still waiting the announcements on those and kind of what we're looking into. But obviously 27 seems to be the biggest hit as far as how it affects internal combustion engines. So it's good to get in front of, especially those fleets that are running in with refrigerated units, that recognizing, it's been hard to get equipment for the last couple of years, but so stuff is aging, and maybe given where the regulations come and how far, how soon they get implemented, some guys could get caught out with equipment that's not going to be compliant, pretty quickly. So it's good to know that, you guys are on top of it. And I guess the best way for any of these fleets is work through the local Thermo King dealers to engage your team in that, as far as getting the resources and the assistance needed to get, electrification, or at least start the process for their fleets.
Right. Yeah. And we have a lot of good resources online as well that helps walk you through compliance requirements for both truck and trailer. So thermoking.com is a great place to start on investigating electrification or investigating compliance requirements as well. Excellent.
Well, encourage everyone to reach out, get informed, and start planning, because it's the planning process is probably the longest part of the process of all this. Traditionally equipment is the easy part. So I appreciate the info, so everyone kind of get in front of it for sure. Excellent. Well, hey, I want to thank you guys for coming on and sharing the story of electrification with Thermo King, the products you guys have coming, and the support and the resources you're throwing at it that assist the fleets in getting where they need to go. So we thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, hey, that concludes today's episode. I want to thank Preeti and Matt from Thermo King of Americas for joining us. And to catch up on past episodes, check out transportationexchangepodcast.ca. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.